My guest today is a true legend and trailblazer in weightlifting and pro wrestling. He was a gold medalist in the 1971 Pan Am Games, competed in the 1972 Munich Games, and he started in pro wrestling by completing Vern Gagne's grueling wrestling camp with the famous class of 1972 that included Ric Flair, Greg Gagne, Jim Brunzell, and the Iron Sheik. He wrestled in all major territories and won titles in many of them. He is a former WWF Intercontinental Champion, a two-time AWA World Tag Team Champion, and a two-time Mid Atlantic Champion, just to name a few. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce to you the world's strongest man, Ken Patera. Ken, thanks for joining our show and taking time out of your busy schedule today.
Well, thanks for having me, Brian. It's a pleasure. I listened to one of your interviews with Greg Gagne about a week ago. I don't know when it was recorded. I think it was a year ago that it was recorded, but I enjoyed it.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Well, a little bit, let's talk about you growing up. You grew up in Oregon. Can we talk a little bit about your childhood, your schooling, things like that?
Well, I'll talk to you about anything.
Well, wonderful. Let's talk about your childhood, how you grew up in Oregon, what your family life was like.
Well, I had 4 brothers and 1 sister. And, of course, I had mom and dad.
Yeah.
And grandma and grandpa. And, God, I had 8 aunts and 1 uncle.
Wow.
And but we had a big extended family. And I don't know how many cousins I had, tell you the truth, Brian.
Yeah.
I would just hear to say, back in those days, back in the early 40s, mid 40s, everybody had, 5 to 10 kids.
Yeah.
And I think I had about 25 cousins. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah. And we used to, and my mom and dad, they'd have these huge Sunday dinners at 1 o'clock every Sunday.
Yeah.
Right after church.
Yep.
And all the aunts and uncles would show up. And we had a huge dining room table in the dining room right off the kitchen.
Yeah.
And they'd stick all the little kids into the kitchen. And oh God, not all of them showed up every Sunday, but
right.
I bet 10 to 15 kids, and all the aunts and uncles and mom and dad.
Wow.
For some reason, they always put me in the dining room. Even when I was 2 year old, I was 1943, 44.
Yeah.
And then when I got to be 3, 4, 5 years old, I was actually sitting at the big table.
You became the big kid then.
Well, yeah, I think my mom wanted to keep an eye on me.
Are you the youngest?
No, I'm the second to the youngest. We have Jack. He was 3-time All-American at the University of Oregon, and then he played 8 or 9 years in the NFL. Then he became a pretty famous defensive coach with the LA Rams and then the New York Giants. And then his third assignment was with Bud Grant here in Minnesota with the Minnesota Vikings. And then in 76, he was hired as the first head coach of the Seattle Seahawks.
Ah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So, he got around.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you're good, you get hired places, right?
Yeah, exactly. When in 1960, when the Dallas Cowboys were an expansion franchise along with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Mm-hmm.
My brother was hired by the Dallas Cowboys as a middle linebacker and defensive captain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he was pretty good. Then he blew his knee out after the fourth or fifth game. And back in those days, almost any kind of knee injury was the end of your career.
Yeah.
Now they patch you up and you're back on the field within 6 months or less.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's when he went into coaching. He was the youngest coach in the NFL when he started. I think he was 28 or 29.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's interesting. Let's your college career. You went to BYU,
Yeah.
correct? Let's talk a little bit about that. You were a shot put, weightlifter. I know you got some recognition while you were in college.
Oh, yeah. I got a lot of recognition. I was two-time All-American in weightlifting and track and field.
Yeah.
And, I competed in all the national AAU championships every summer. And I won the indoor NCAA shot put championship I think that was in 67.
Okay.
Yeah, it might have been 66, 67, something like that. I can't remember. Geez, I don't think it makes that much difference. But anyway, I had quite a collegiate career, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. When you went to the Olympics in '72, and that situation with the what was that like? With the hostages. I mean, you guys were kind of locked down, I believe. I mean, I was not even 2 years old. So can you kind of talk about that? What was that like for you over there?
Well, when we left the States to fly over to Munich, Germany,
Mm-hmm.
everything was, happy-go-lucky. Everybody was glad to be going to the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
And all the different, it didn't matter if it was swimming, volleyball, track and field, weightlifting, boxing, wrestling, whatever your sport was. And so we all land in Munich, Germany. And we had the opening day ceremony in the big stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a gorgeous stadium. And everybody's going crazy, and so we get back to the Olympic Village, and we get settled in the best we could. And then I was supposed to compete September 5th, 1972.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's when raghead terrorists came over the back fence of the Olympic Village. Mm-hmm. And the Olympic compound for the Jewish team was right next to that fence.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but the Jewish Federation, they were complaining about the security being too tight, and that the German Gestapos ought to loosen up on their security. Well, the Germans, they didn't let up on their security. As a matter of fact, they tightened it up more because they knew something was up. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, even with that response, the terrorists, somehow they got the lighting on the big poles to go out. So now everything around the Jewish compound was dark. Yeah. And I was right across from the Jewish compound, about 300 feet.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
but our apartment building was about 7 or 8 stories high, and I think we were on the 6th floor. So I mean, I had a bird's eye view right into the Jewish compound. I could see everything. Yeah,
Wow.
and about 6 in the morning, one of the other weightlifters turns the TV on, and they said, "Geez, what the hell's going on there?" And so it was being televised back here to the States.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
and so they woke me up. I think I was already awake. Anyway, they brought my attention to what was going on in the Jewish compound. I looked out the window, and it was already daylight, and I could see these terrorists running around on the balconies of the Jewish
Yeah.
compound. And they all had these black ski masks pulled down over their head. And they were all carrying
Good
automatic weapons. And I said, "Holy shit, that's right across the street."
Yeah, right.
I was right there. And
Wow.
next thing I know, helicopters started to land in the meeting area out in the plaza. And
Yeah.
some trucks and half tracks from the military started rolling in there. And even as it was televised live in Munich and all around the world,
Mm-hmm.
we still didn't understand what was going on.
Right.
But then it became real clear when we started hearing the gunshots. And
Wow.
yeah, and so the German military and police, they had the compound, totally surrounded, and
Yeah.
Arafat and his happy band of terrorists were making all kinds of demands, and that
Yeah.
thing, I think it went on till about noon or 1 o'clock.
Mm-hmm. And there had to be 150 soldiers in the half tracks. I don't know, God, there's 10 or 12, 15 of them, whatever.
Yeah.
And they totally surround the compound there, and then they were all parked in the courtyard down below us.
Mm-hmm.
And so then the firing really picked up. I mean, there was machine gun fire, automatic weapon fire going off for about 10, 15 minutes. And then the terrorists, they came out with the white flag. Well, that was a phony white flag. They had no intentions in surrendering. What they wanted, as we found out later, they wanted a couple of helicopters to fly them back to the airport, because they had they didn't have a plane. They were going to hijack a plane. So they wanted transportation out to the airport, helicopter. So what they did, I don't know how many helicopters there were, actually. There was 2 for sure. Anyway, they got the Jewish team members in there. I think there was 10 or 12 of them. But they had already killed 3 or 4 of them and just left them in the compound there. So they get to the airport, and they were making all kinds of demands, and they had the Jewish athletes, I think a couple coaches too. They had them hogtied and with blindfolds on. So when the helicopters landed at the airport, the German military had snipers set up on the tarmac. I don't know how many snipers there were, half a dozen or more. and they were laying down, and it was, by that time, I think it was getting dark.
Yeah.
It was later in the day. So they, the terrorists, they get out of the helicopter. Well, when they got out of the helicopter, those snipers started picking them off, just boom, 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 dropping them dead.
Yeah.
Well, there was one that had a couple incendiary grenades. Those are, grenades that go off and then create a horrific fire.
Yeah.
They throw those grenades inside the helicopter where the Jewish athletes still were. It just fried them, just killed them instantly. And then, we heard all that, of course, and
Yeah.
so I was with some friends there at the Olympic Village before I went to the Olympic. Well, I went as a weightlifter, but I was actually a shot putter and discus thrower prior to that, for the '68 Olympics.
Oh, wow.
So I had a lot of friends on the track and field team. So those guys were rooming one floor down from us.
Mm-hmm.
So I went down the elevator and I saw, 4 or 5 of my shot putting buddies and discus throwers. I said, "What are you guys doing?" "Oh, we're going to go downtown." I said, "That's a good idea." Now, I was supposed to be competing that afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Well, everything was canceled.
Yeah.
And they said, no more Olympics. 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock in the afternoon, they said, we're having a big meeting. All the nations are together and we're going to call the Olympics off. I said, "Well, shit, that's good. I trained for almost 4 years."
Yeah.
And for this day, you only get one chance at it every 4 years.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, I says, "Yeah, let's go downtown." So we jumped on the subway. The subway was right below the Olympic Village. Brand new subway, beautiful.
Oh.
So we all go down. There's about 8 of us. We go downtown Munich, and we go to this little restaurant that was highly recommended.
Mm-hmm.
I said, "You go in there and get a 2-pound ham hock. You get big sausages, Wiener Schnitzel, mashed potatoes, sauerkraut, whatever you want."
Wow.
So we got this restaurant, and there was one table left. It was a big table. It was 8, 10 people to sit at it. So we pull up to that table, and they had what they called a meat platter. And on that meat platter, you get that big ham hock, you get a big sausage, you get a big hunk of bacon, mashed potatoes, sauerkraut. Oh man, it was unbelievable. I ate that whole damn thing. I didn't need any help, I'll tell you that. And of course, we're drinking those big steins of beer.
Yeah.
Because Oktoberfest was starting in like a week and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And Oktoberfest in Germany is, paramount. Everybody goes to Oktoberfest.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know how many, we were all drinking. They said, "Well, why not? The Olympics have been canceled." So we stuff ourselves, we get all drunked up. We're drinking, what were we drinking? I don't know, some kind of liqueur, Ruppelmans. Ruppelment liqueur. I must have had 10 or 12 of those and a dozen beers. Wow. And we all stumbled back to the subway station, got back to the Olympic Village. well, I don't know, 3, 4 in the morning, I guess it was.
Yeah.
And one of our handlers, Rudy Sablo from New York. Rudy comes into my room at 7:30 in the morning and says, Ken, you got to get up. You got to get up. I said, Rudy, get out of my room. No, you got to get up. The Olympics, they reinstated them about an hour ago.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I said, you're kidding. No, I'm not kidding. We got to go weigh in. Well, the weigh-in is 2 hours away by bus because we have to go all the way back to the area where we're competing. And no, it's 2.5 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm busting here. My head is just pounding. And so anyway, we get over there. I get weighed in. And well, by now it's like noon.
Yeah.
And I'm starving. I haven't eaten since, dinner the night before midnight. I said, Rudy, where's a snack bar around here? And everything's closed. I said, Jesus. So we found some potato chips and a couple hot dogs. And so that's what you get for being on the Olympic team.
They didn't feed you too good back then, did they?
Well, the schedule kind of got screwed up.
Yeah. Wow.
So I said, hell, I don't want to stay over here all day, but when do we have to be back here? He says, well, 6 o'clock tonight. So I says, well, let's go jump on the bus and go back. I want to lay down for a couple hours.
Yeah.
Which isn't ideal, Yeah. But I had no choice. I was so hungover. So we get back to the Olympic Village. I take a nap for about 2 hours. Well, then I had to get up again because it was another 2.5 hour drive back to the where we were competing.
Yeah.
So I mean, the whole thing was a mess. And on top of that, I had a real bad knee injury about 9 months prior to that, and I had my knee operated on, and it always swelled up. I did ridiculous knee injury.
Yeah.
So anyway, about 4 days before the competition, I twisted my knee. I'm doing some warm-up lifts in the weightlifting hall. And there are so many teams that we're only allowed a certain amount of minutes.
Okay.
Not hours, minutes. To get a workout routine in.
Ugh.
And so between the knee injury and being hungover, I says, yeah, it is what it is. So I couldn't keep the swelling down in my knee. And the Carl Faith was the trainer. I said, Carl, what are we going to do about my knee? And he said, well, there's not a lot we can do about it. We can freeze it. They had these cans of I can't remember what it was called, but they spray it on your knee, and it was colder than hell. It was cold.
Yeah. And
so he did that 2-3 times and put a heavy wrap on it, and because the swelling so bad, he thought that by putting the heavy wrap on real tight would probably help it. Well, it didn't help. It made it worse. And it was on so tight I couldn't even do a squat. Well, if you can't do a squat while you're doing Olympic lifts, you're not going to be able to lift.
Yeah. Wow.
So anyway, here comes, about an hour later, the competition starts. We've already weighed in the morning. And so we get out on the weightlifting platform. After I'm warmed up and stuff, I do my first attempt. You get 3 attempts at each lift. Back in those days, you had the military press, 3 lifts. You had the 2-hand snatch, 3 lifts. Clean and jerk, 3 lifts. Okay. So, you had to be, you can't be out there with a bad knee doing all that heavy lifting.
Right.
Because, we're talking 500 pounds and stuff, that you have to pull off the platform and jump under and then stand up and put it over your head. And so anyway, the press went all right. I think I was in 2nd or 3rd place. I should have been in 1st place, but as it wasn't. Yeah. And so then after the press segment was over, then you warm up and do the snatch. I told Carl, the trainer, I said, Carl, this wrap is so tight. I said, I'm not going to be able to do snatches with this thing. So he took the wrap off. Well, he took that wrap off and my knee swelled up the size of a football.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, in like 2 minutes.
Oh, gosh.
And I said, Carl, do you have a syringe? He says, no. I said, well, shit. He said, what do you want a syringe for? I said, to drain this fluid off my knee.
Yeah.
And he said, no. So anyway, I warm up for the snatch and I go out there and I made the mistake of doing a regular snatch where you pull the weight off the platform, jump under it, and then you hit a full bottom position in a squat. Well, I couldn't do that. And I dropped all 3 snatches behind me. I had no flexibility. I didn't have enough flexibility to quit. So anyway, I'm not blaming it on the night before, the drinking and the carousing around, because I'd done that 1,000 times. So I couldn't use that as an excuse. I wouldn't eat anyway. But yeah, my knee just never recovered.
Well, that's...
And, the year before, we were in Cali, Colombia for the Pan American Games, which is Western Hemisphere, like Olympic Games. Same thing, same competition, everything. But anyway, and the year before in 71, I won all 4 gold medals. Yeah. The military press, a snatch, a clean and jerk, and then you get a gold medal for the overall. And because they take all 3 of your best lifts, combine them for a total. Okay. And so I think I set all Pan American Game records.
Yeah, I think you did. I read. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, I was on a good roll. So going in the Olympics the next year, I was one of the favorites along with Vasily Alexiev from Russia. And unfortunately, he didn't have any injuries. Yeah. He didn't have any knee injuries. Where I had a bad knee injury with a heck of an operation just 9 months prior to the Olympics, and then the damn thing just kept acting up. Anyway.
Yeah. That's too bad. I know you would have done well if it wasn't for that knee injury. That's unfortunate. Oh, yeah. All right. Well, that's very interesting. I got a little more insight. That's great. Let's I've been told that Vern Gagne had sponsored you during your time at the Olympics, and then he recruited you to go into his wrestling camp. You got a pretty well-known class that you went through with. What was that like for you going into that camp? I mean, doing it with that group of people.
Yeah, well, when I got back from the Pan American Games, Ric Flair and I were renting a house in South Minneapolis at the time. Not the most desirable neighborhood, but yeah, we really didn't have any problems down there. So anyway, Rick grew up in Minneapolis. I'm from Portland, Oregon. A lot of people think I'm from Minnesota, but I'm not.
Right.
I am now. I've lived here most of my adult life.
Okay.
Well, I'm almost 78, and I moved back here when I was 25.
Yeah, I'd say you lived there a while.
More than 50 years, so I can call myself a Minnesotan now.
Yeah.
You know, like Ric Flair and Jesse the Body Ventura and Nick Bockwinkel and all the other guys. But anyway, we started training camp a couple of weeks after I got back from Munich. Did we talk about Greg Gagne and I going to Czechoslovakia?
No. Let's hear it.
Okay.
For over 10 years, VOC Nation has taken listeners behind the scenes of the greatest moments in pro wrestling history. Our hosts are not only experts on the business, but have lived in the business. Subscribe and hear weekly podcasts from hosts like legendary pro wrestling journalist Bill Apter, former Impact Wrestling star Wes Briscoe, former WWE and AWA broadcaster Ken Resnick, former WWE and TNA star Shelly Martinez, former WCW star The Maestro, NWA legend The Raging Bull Manny Fernandez, and much more. VOC Nation programming is free on most major podcasting apps, including iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Radio.com. And video podcast and bonus content is available on Patreon for as low as $3 a month. What are you waiting for? Head to VOCNation.com and dig into the most comprehensive podcast network built for pro wrestling fans. Find us on Facebook and Instagram at VOC Nation Wrestling Network and follow us on Twitter at VOC Nation.
So anyway, after the Olympic Games, after my competition was all over, I had an option of flying back to Minnesota or staying over there in Europe for like 10 days.
Okay.
So I was talking to Vern Gagne's son, Greg Gagne. Vern Gagne brought his whole family, brought his wife and his two daughters and his son. What was it, Kathy and Donna. He had a third daughter there too, Elizabeth, but she didn't want to go. So anyway, I said, Greg, you want to go over to Austria and Czechoslovakia and some of those places? Yeah. I said, okay. So we jumped on a train after about 2 days. Yeah, it was 2 days. And we went over to Vienna, Austria, and got a hotel room. And it was a gorgeous hotel. Jesus, you know, those old style mansions.
Yeah. Wow.
Anyway, we stayed in Vienna for 2 days. And so Greg wanted to go see those big white horses.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that dance and prance. I can't remember the names of them. God, they're huge. They're like 2,000 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But anyway, their stable was 2 blocks away. But right damn near in downtown Vienna.
Okay.
So we went over there. The place was empty. Well, they were out on tour somewhere. So there's no horses. There's a couple people, you know, like groundskeepers or whatever. And so I talked to them. I said, well, how long are they going to be gone? Oh, they'll be gone for a month.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I says, Yeah. Okay, that's fine, you know. And so on the way back to the hotel, we come across this restaurant with a wine cellar. And it was like, you know, half of it was outside, half of it was inside. It was right off the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
So we went down about 5 steps, and they must have had 500 different kinds of wine.
Oh, wow.
In bottles. I'm not kidding. This thing was like 200 feet long.
Wow.
And it was like a big buffet of wine. And so there was a couple girls there, of all places, from Oregon. And you know, I'm from Oregon. So we started talking to the girls, and I said, "Why are you here?" They said, "Well, they were in some kind of a social group that worked in summer camps."
Oh.
And they had their choice of going anywhere in the world.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I didn't know those places even existed, but they do.
Yeah.
So they were over there. You know, they made like 50 cents an hour.
Oh, geez.
They had free room and board, and they were there for like 3 months.
Okay.
And so after 3, you know, it didn't cost them anything. They were making 50 cents an hour. And back in those days, that's like $5 an hour now.
Yeah.
So they were able to save up quite a bit of money. And they were in this, well, they were sitting at a table outside. It was a gorgeous day.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, "You girls drink wine?" "Oh, yeah, you know how girls are." "Oh, yeah." And they were probably about 19, I think 19 and 20.
Okay.
And I think Greg at that time was probably about 20, 22, 23, and I was 27. So, so basically the same age bracket.
Yeah.
And so we start tasting all these fantastic wines. And of course, we got a big meal too.
Yeah.
Man, did we get plowed. We were there for like 3 hours drinking wine. And our hotel was just about a block away.
Uh-huh.
And so we invited the girls to come over to our hotel, and they said, "Oh, yeah." I said, "Do you guys have any place to stay?" "No." I said, "Well," you know, and their train didn't leave Vienna until the next morning. I said, "Well, come over and stay with us." So they did.
Ah, all right.
So the party was on. And yeah, we had a heck of a time. And in the bathroom, they had a toilet, and then they had this other thing that looked kind of like a toilet, but it was a bidet. Where you squat over, push the button, it cleans your bottom. So Greg doesn't know what it is. I said, "Greg, don't go to the bathroom in that." And so I explained to him what it was for. "Oh, okay. Yeah," he said, "I've heard of those." Yeah. So anyway, that hotel room, it had a huge bathroom and shower. It was like a walk-in shower down there. It was about 6 by 6.
Wow.
And yeah, it was a big bathroom.
Yeah.
It was like a two-room bathroom.
Yeah.
And well, we paid $75 a night for that room.
Oh, well, it's expensive back then.
Days, that's $2,000 a night now.
Yeah, that's expensive back then.
I mean, it was a gorgeous hotel.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to spend that much money, but that's the only room that we could get in the hotel. We didn't get over there until about 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
When we originally came in from Munich. So then the next day, we had to catch the train over to Bratislava, Czechoslovakia. And that's in the southern portion of Czechoslovakia.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to go to Czechoslovakia because my dad was born up by Prague. But that's 650 miles to the north of where we were. So I asked that's like a 2-day train ride. Well, we didn't have that much time.
Right.
I said, how much would it cost to fly up there? And the guy that knew, he says, well, you're probably looking at $600-700.
Oof.
And now I don't have enough money.
Right.
So we didn't get up to Prague. And so we stayed in Bratislava. And I had met a girl over in Munich about 2 weeks prior to that. This girl, I'm not lying, she looked just like Sophia Loren.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And she worked for the TV studio during the Olympics. And she was absolutely gorgeous, really bright. Spoke 6-7 different languages.
Oh, wow.
Everybody over in that part of Europe, they all speak 6-7 languages.
Yeah.
Andre the Giant spoke 6 languages, I think.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, Andre was a very bright guy.
Yeah.
Nice guy, too.
Yeah.
If he liked you, he was nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there are so many jerk-offs that,
Yeah.
no, man, I'll tell you. Everybody has a little man's complex when they come up against somebody that's much larger than they.
Yeah.
And there were so many jerks, that I call it the 6-beer enhancement program. They get 6 beers in them, they think they can whip anybody.
Yeah.
And I've had that situation 1,000 times myself, but I'm really, there are so many little midgets. Everybody was a midget, next to Andre.
Right.
7'4", 450 pounds.
Yeah. He's a big dude.
Yeah, very big.
Yeah.
And he wasn't afraid to get in a fight.
I wonder why.
Yeah, he was tough.
Yeah.
He knew how to fight.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But anyway, we're over there in Bratislava for 3 days, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
And this beautiful girl, she's always, every day, she's dressed up. She's got a blazer and a skirt and nice shoes and a fancy hat. Gorgeous women over in Europe at that time, back in the early 70s, they all wore hats.
Mm-hmm.
So she took us down the Blue Danube. And I think Linda Ronstadt sang a song, the Blue Danube.
Mm-hmm.
It was a gorgeous song. It's all about this beautiful river and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we get on this boat, and Greg and I and this girl, and for the life of me, I can't remember her name. It wasn't Sophia, but she just looked like Sophia Loren.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're going down the Blue Danube, and I asked her, I said, "Isn't this river supposed to be blue?" She says, "Why?" I says, "It's a mud hole." I said, "This river is filthy." He said, "That's because all the countries up the river." I mean, that river ran through about 7 or 8 different countries. And so I think it originated in the Alps.
Okay.
So anyway, it wasn't blue. She really got offended at me. I thought she was going to hit me. But she didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. She knew I was kidding. I think she did. But anyway, so that was interesting. We went about 2-3 miles downriver, and then we got off, and I think we took a trolley back up to where we were staying. And that was very interesting. Then we went. She showed us some old castles.
Oh wow!
That were way up on the mountain, overlooking the city and stuff. Very, those castles were built back in like 12th, 13th century.
Yeah.
So I mean, they were old, but they were gorgeous. God,
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
Yeah.
And at that time, Europe was basically coming out of a recession.
Oh, okay.
And communism. The Czechoslovakia had been under Russia rule for quite a number of years.
Yeah.
At that time, and they finally ran the Russians out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But because Czechoslovakia has always been a capitalist country.
Yeah.
And when the Russians came in, with their tanks and their military and their army and everything, they shut everything down.
Right.
Just people didn't like the Ruskies. They hated the Russians. They loved the Americans. I mean, everywhere Greg and I would walk around that place, people come up to us, and tell us how much they appreciate the Americans and everything.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, then they'd always say, we hate the Russians. I said, I know you do. For good reason.
Yeah.
They come in here, occupy your country, and take all the resources and everything, and all they do is leave it. When they leave, everything's broken.
Yeah.
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 So, but anyway, we had to go back to Munich. So when we left Bratislava, we stopped one more day in Vienna and went to a casino there.
Oh. Like
a casino royale.
Yeah.
And, Vienna, Austria is a very, very wealthy city. Very wealthy. A lot of money there. And there's two American guys walking around tapped out, broke. Walking around. By this time, our clothes are getting a little stingy. But anyway, we went to this casino and had a good time. And then we got back to Munich. And I wasn't aware that if I didn't fly back with the American team, I was on my own as far as the airfare.
Oh.
Yeah. So we get back. I called the airport or airlines, whatever, the Olympic Committee, whatever. Oh, Mr. Patera, your flight left yesterday. And you were supposed to be on it. And the girl says, you're on your own now. I said, I don't have any money. Well, you have to figure out how to do it.
Oh, my goodness.
So, yeah, I had like $200. Yeah, I think I had $200. And the flight was almost 300, I believe it was. So luckily, Greg Gagne, he had a few extra bucks on him, so we made it work.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So we flew out of Munich that next day, and we were from Munich to Minneapolis, but we had one stop in Chicago.
Okay.
So I had all my clothes and everything in one huge suitcase. Well, the suitcase never showed up in Minneapolis.
Oh no!
It had a nice trip. It went down to Italy and Spain, and then it went up to Ireland because I could see the baggage tags on.
Yeah.
And I finally did get it. So like 5 days, I finally got to Minneapolis, and then they called me.
Yeah.
Well, I was staying over at Greg's house, So I said, well, I don't have a vehicle. We can bring it out. So thank God, Northwest Airlines, they brought my luggage out to Vern's house.
Yeah.
And I think Greg and I were staying there for 3-4 days. About 5. No, that'd be longer than that.
Yeah.
Took 5 days for the luggage to get there. We must have been there about 10 days.
Wow.
Yeah. And Vern and his family, they went down to Italy, sightseeing down there.
Okay.
So anyway, they get down there. They went to this real famous resort, big lake and everything.
Mm-hmm.
They get there, the lake was closed.
Oh no.
Yeah, because pollution. It was so polluted that they couldn't let anybody in. You know, they could stay in the motels and stuff, but they weren't allowed to go in the lake.
Oh wow. That's... You can look at it.
Yeah, Vern was pissed.
I bet. Oh gosh.
They never let them know.
Yeah, that's
communication back in those days isn't like it is now.
Yeah.
You know, nowadays communication is like a minute anywhere in the world. Back then it might take 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we all survived.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so now when Vern gets back into town, and he wants to start training camp.
Mm-hmm.
And did I tell you anything about the training
no,
camp?
let's talk about the training camp. That's what I want to get into next, if we can.
Okay. So now I'm at that time. Was I still living with Rick? No. Or no. Rick had gotten married that summer before I went to Munich. That's what it was. I was in the wedding. And so when Greg and I got back, we were talking to his dad and Vern. And so Vern says, okay, have you guys talked to all these other guys? And I said, yeah, we got everybody lined up. So there was Greg and Jumpin' Jimmy Brunzell, Ric Flair and me, Khosrow Vasiri, who's known as Iron Sheik.
Yeah.
He's actually from Iran. He was on the 68 Olympic team for Iran. And
okay.
181-pound Greco-Roman wrestler.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then there was one other guy, Bob Bruggers. And Bob Bruggers was all-state in 4 different sports in Minnesota.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was a hell of an athlete. He was All-American at the University of Minnesota, linebacker. And he wound up playing for the Miami Dolphins. He's outside linebacker. And Wahoo McDaniel was at Miami Dolphins at the same time, so they became good friends.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, Billy Robinson was in Japan, and so when we started camp, but he got back the next day. So when he got back, he was our coach.
Okay.
Yeah, because Vern was playing tennis and running the wrestling office and everything. He had a lot of responsibilities, but he wanted to get that wrestling camp up and going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had a hell of a class. I mean, everybody in that class was a legitimate main eventer.
Yeah.
You know, except for Bob Bruggers, he wasn't cut out to be a wrestler. He just didn't like it.
Yeah.
But he stayed in it 5 or 6 years, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, he's really a nice guy.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we started training camp. out at one of Vern's farms. Vern had a couple farms out on the western part of Minneapolis.
Okay.
About 15, 20, maybe 20 miles, I think, west of Minneapolis, the downtown. So anyway, we're all excited to get going, and so Billy shows up. He says, okay, you guys in shape? And I had met Billy about a year prior to that. And so we all say, yeah, we're all ready to go. Well, he starts us off with like 500 squats.
Oh my gosh.
And my knee is still screwed up from the Olympics.
Yeah.
But I said, well, what the hell? I'm not using any weights anymore. So, so I thought I was able to get through it pretty good. And then we did all these other calisthenics. And then we'd get in the ring. We'd practice tying up, practice putting headlocks on one another, working top arm bars, all kinds of stuff. Technical stuff that you need to have a wrestling match.
Right.
And so we'd all practice that for like 2-3 hours at a time.
Oh.
Of course, this is after doing sit-ups and push-ups and everything. They showed us how to run, hit the ropes and come off the ropes. And that was one of the toughest parts. By hitting those ropes, you don't know how to hit them properly, and that just tear the skin right off your side.
Yeah. Ow.
And and every one of us had the same problem.
Yeah.
So we were all suffering. And anyway, we go through all these routines. We slam each other. Now there's 6 of us, so the group lines up in front of me. There's 5 of them and 1 of me. I'd slam them all. Then we'd switch. Then Ric Flair would slam us all. Then Vern Gagne, Jim Brunzell, Iron Sheik, Bob Brothers. We all took turns body slamming each other. Well, we go around like 5 times. That'd take like a half an hour to 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And so then we do backdrops, we do suplexes, we do beals out of the corner, top wrist locks, not figure 4s, but the ankle holds and stuff, and wrist holds.
Yeah.
Type of holds that you break somebody's arm or break somebody's ankle.
Right.
They weren't. That is if you apply the pressure, but we never applied the pressure to one another.
Right.
Just a little bit. Just to see if this shit really works. It works.
It works.
It works.
Please join us for part 2 of our conversation with the world's strongest man, Ken Patera.